started making this. And so what I've done is I have just cut a 1/4 sheet of basic black cardstock. And I need to run that and my large die through my Stampin' Cut and Emboss. Now, one of the things that I first noticed is that this must be a die that works for both American measures and European measures. So European cards are slightly different in size. I don't know if you knew that or not. Stampin' Up! Does have a market in Europe, actually a lot of places, New Zealand, and they had one in Japan, but that one's going away, I guess. But what I want to do is I want to center it as best I can. I can see that there's more of a border on these edges than on the top and bottom. And that's okay as long as I've got it roughly where I want it. I'm going to take a little bit of washi tape. Washi tape's not very sticky. So I'm just going to make sure that I kind of hold this down where I want it so that it doesn't shift. Oh, like it did. Like I shouldn't have done it on here. I should have done it on my Stampin' Cut and Emboss, which let's get out right now. All right, so I've got my 1 and my 2 plate in there, and I had my 3 plates around here somewhere. I was cleaning up before I got on, and that's always a sketchy proposition. Here's a 3 plate. So I'm going to go ahead and put this down on there and then line it up where I want it. And that looks pretty good. And then I'm going to put this over the top. It's another 3 plate. And we're just going to run that through. Now, one thing that I didn't do that I should have done is angled this. And I know I've said it before, but for some reason when I get on camera, I don't do it. So you see how this is kind of running straight through? What I really should have done is put it on a diagonal, because then a corner will catch this first, and then it won't be nearly as that loud pop you heard at the end. You wouldn't hear that. So I'm going to take my washi tape off. I could use that again. And you're going to see you have a lot of these little pieces. Actually, what I tend to do, and I didn't do it because I was too busy talking to you about what I didn't do and how I messed up again, I usually run these things through a couple times. So what I'm doing right now is I'm taking a lot of those little bits and putting them in my trash. I usually run this through more than once just because it helps those little pieces fall out better. So I'm just going to run it through again. I don't have to worry about it shifting this time because it's already been run through and kind of squished. Oh, and look at that. I didn't do it on a diagonal again. All right, well, you know, do as I say, not as I do. I use that with my kids. I can use it with you too, right? So let's just take this off. And this die does tend to make a mess because you have all these little pieces. Now, what I would normally do here is I would take the edge of this probably and scrape it off into the trash. Comes off pretty quickly that way. You can use an old credit card, an old hotel key card, just something. It just helps those pieces get off your plate, especially if your plate looks like mine. See, mine is pretty well loved, so things sort of tend to stick to it a little bit now. It's almost time for a new one. I've been beating this one to death. But you can usually just manipulate this with your fingers a little bit. You can use the brush that goes with the take your pick tool, but they really just fell right out anyways, so I have that in place. Now, I start actually with I mean, I could have done this first. I have a card that's already folded. My sample card opens this way. It's more of a hot dog style. I went with the hamburger, the traditional fold, with the ones I usually make. This is our basic white cardstock. And I'm just going to add some color, and I'm going to be honestly pretty random about it. So I'm going to take one of our blending brushes, and last I checked, these were on back order because everybody loves them so much. I'm going to start off a little bit, and then I'm going to just rub some in here over in the corner. I'm going to pick up a little more ink and rub over here. Nice circular motion, gets a nice even kind of color going. And let's see, that's one more down here, I think. All right, so that's pretty good, I think. And I'm going to switch colors now to my Granny Apple Green. I don't know why, for some reason, oh, there we go. Oh, sorry, I need to turn my iPad down. For some reason, I wasn't getting everything on here. I want to see your comments, but oh, there we go. Now I can see your comments. You're good to go. Here's my Granny Apple Green. Now I could just get as much color off as possible with this. I could bring in my microfiber cloth. That really gets the color off very, very well. You can see it coming off right here pretty well. And then I could go to the Granny Apple Green, and there really wouldn't be much crossover. But I'd already started using it with this, so we'll continue. And so I'm going to put some Granny Apple Green there. And I'm going to put some over here. And I do want to leave a little bit of white space, because it's like a third color, even though white's not a color. Okay, and before I go adhering anything down, I think what I would like to do is see how that looks with that cutout portion on it. So I'm going to get that portion off. Let's see how this looks. Just look at how that black makes it pop. It's so cool. So, yep, I like that, okay? So we can go with that. So next what I'm going to do is I need to adhere this. And I've cut it so that it's, you know, it's that full quarter sheet. There's not really very many places in here to glue these pieces down. They're very, very tiny, so I don't even bother. I'm actually going to put a strip of black over across here, and so that will allow me to adhere it a little bit in the middle as well and keep it a little bit flatter. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my fine tip glue pen out. And what's great about the fine tip glue pen is just that. It's a fine tip glue pen. It's got a tiny, tiny, tiny tip. So I'm going to get out my silicone sheet. Thank you, Sheila, for sending this to me. And I'm just going to add a little bit of glue all the way around. Now the trick when you're putting this on, first of all, you want to make sure it's a pretty thin line that you've got, but also that you don't move it around too much on the card once you get there. So the silicone mat, what's great about this is that glue doesn't stick to it. So I'll be able to rub that right off when it dries. So let's move this out of the way. Trying not to get glue on my fingers. That's always, you know, kind of dicey. So I moved it a little bit down here, but that's all right. So I'm just very carefully laying it down around the edge. Didn't move it around a whole lot. If you notice, I started at one end and just sort of made sure the sides were straight as I went along. And so that is the front of my card. Well, part of the front of my card. So what I need to do now is I need a strip that goes across here. And so this measurement is 4 1/4. I've already got a piece that's 4 1/4 inches wide. Let's go ahead and cut it, say, oh, probably it's probably an inch. Let's go with 1 1/4 maybe. Okay, so I've got this little piece right here that we're going to bring my card back over, and we would just adhere that there. I'm wondering if that's going to be a little bit wide. Well, before I tack it down, let's go ahead and get the other piece in there. Look, do you see this? This is a little red heart. Remember when I gave away hearts near Valentine's Day? I am still finding these little things all around. There's another one up there on my desk. It is crazy, but that just reminds me that I'm loved and I love others, so I guess that's good enough. So I need a piece of white cardstock, and I'm going to stamp. I could stamp any one of these things on it, but I'm going to do the "You've Been on My Mind" stamp. And I could also do that in one of the colors that I've been using, but I'm going to use the Memento, going for that black and white look on the top. There we go. I will need to bring back my Stampin' Cut and Emboss. So let's move my stuff out of the way again so that I can get that out. And I also need the die that is this one right here. We can put this one back because we're done for this one right now. I can see that some of the black pieces didn't come out of here. You know how you get some of these pieces out? Well, I'll show you on my Stampin' Cut and Emboss. Basically, if you drop it on the plates, they fall out. See? Isn't that cool? Sometimes you smash it, but you can also always use your take your pick tool. So I'm just going to get out that little pointy end. And if I hold it up, I can see where the black pieces are, and I just nudge them out. Here we go. I do love this die, but boy, there are lots of little pieces. Lots of little pieces that come out with it. All right, so Stampin' Cut and Emboss time again. And we need our plates. So we need that one, and we need our number 3 plate. And I'm going to do it right this time, people. I am going to put it on an angle, and I set up my die somewhere. All right, let's see. So they're working on a magnetic plate for this one, like we had a magnetic plate for the Big Shot. They're working on getting one for this. I think they've had some production issues, but hopefully it will be coming, because the magnetic makes it so it doesn't do what it just did, shift. So I'm going to go ahead and get my pieces of washi tape again, so I can just hold that on there and hold it in place. And that's the last thing I need to die cut right now, so take that back. So you can't just use regular tape, because regular tape's going to rip your cardstock. And actually, even you have to be gentle with the washi tape too. Now this is a second generation use washi tape, so it's probably going to be safe enough as it is. But you do want to remove it carefully, because the worst part is to do all the work and then ruin it because you're in a hurry. So we're going to, that's a little bit crooked, but I'm not going to start over for your sake here. I will let one of you have this card, but I'll actually send you the good one, the one that's nice and straight on here. So I need to get my card back out. And my little black cardstock went somewhere. That's the problem when you're working in a confined space here. All right, people, tell me where it is. Where's my little black piece of cardstock? Well, we'll just cut another one. How about that? I think that other one was a little too wide anyways. So we will make this one only 1 inch wide. I picked the card up with it. So we're going to put this right here. You could always add a little ribbon too if you wanted to. I'm not going to on this one. It's just going to be right in here. So yeah, this is a much better size, the 1 inch thickness. So I'm going to just adhere that down with some Stampin' Seal and get it started. With my finger here. Oh, behave, come on. I had it working just fine earlier. Never mind. I'm not going to fuss with it right now. Oh, I see. I see the little red thing. It's about empty again. I went through a whole one today because I'm making a lot of cards for Easter. And by a lot, I do mean a lot. So we'll take this. So that glue in the middle is also helping to hold some of this down. All right, so there we go. I think we need to pop this guy up on some dimensionals. So I'm going to bring out my mini dimensionals, which I love. I could have also used my black ones, I suppose, too. Let's go on black cardstock. And we're just going to put this in the center here. Yeah. The only thing it needs now is a little bit of bling, I think. So let's see what we've got over here. On my original card, I used basic rhinestones. Look at my sheet of basic rhinestones. I have more coming on Wednesday, but I am really, really close to being out. And this is really the nicest size for this card. And I only have one. So I'm not going to use those. I'm going to use these epoxy droplets. And these droplets are just beautiful. So think bling without the facets. That's really what it is. So I'm going to pick up one with my little spatula thing and move it over in place. It kind of reminds me of water droplets. So I've watered my flowers today, my succulents. They don't need them often, but, and there you go. So pretty simple card to make. And you don't, honestly, you don't even have to really worry about where you're coloring here. It turns out nicely no matter, you know, where your colors are. Pretty simple. Now, let me show you what else you can do with this particular die. It means that we have to cut it out again. I need to, so I'm gonna start with white this time, and you'll see why in a little bit. And I'm probably not gonna make a full card with this. I might. We'll see. We'll see what time it is. I don't want to tie up your whole night. Look, I'm gonna even start it on an angle. There's not a lot of angle to play with here because of the width of the die, and I'm going to, even though you'll see that for this first card, I wouldn't actually need to line it up very straight. Oh goodness, it's hard to see it when it's on white. Here's one piece of washi. I think I threw the other one away because I wasn't thinking. Well, truth is, it actually had a bunch of cat hair on it, so I didn't want to bring it back out anyways. So here's another piece. See, there's hair too. Those cats. All right. Put my plate back on. So I don't actually have that little nifty brush attachment for the Take Your Pick tool. I find that I don't necessarily really need it for this one, but the brush attachment is really basically this brush that we used to sell with, it just doesn't have this handle. The handle, it kind of fits onto the other piece. But if you just rub over this like this, all those pieces pop out. Although, honestly, you saw that it didn't take me much to get those other pieces out anyways on the other one. Got a little piece right here. All right, this is going to come out anyways in my next thing. Look at the mess. You didn't even see the most of the mess that I moved away. Confetti, if you know anybody that's having a birthday, you could make a little confetti card. Make them very unhappy if they're the one that also cleans their house. So I have this piece right here. Now, I happen to have another piece of cardstock, and I've already scored it. Let me just fold it. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to place this very carefully over the front of my card. And I'm going to use this as a mask. And a mask really just protects what it protects the piece underneath it from getting inked. I'm going to put this Post-it note on here to kind of hold it in place. I'm going to get my colors back out, and this is where I'm going to bring in that third color, Melon Mambo. So we've got lots of bright colors because spring and summer are on the way. For those of you living in Maine, you know that they announced today that we will be opening back up pretty kind of conservatively. So gatherings can be at 50% capacity at the end of March. And if it's outside, it can be, which I'm not sure why you'd want to be gathering outside. And at the end of March, you can be at 75%. And then at the end of May, you can gather indoors at 75% of the room's capacity and 100% outside. And so then that's just a stepping stone to 100% everywhere, I think. But so the bright colors are coming and the brighter days are coming. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start by making some nice circles. And if you want it darker, you just keep re-inking. And I need a couple of these spots. So I just want to be careful that I don't shift my card. And that's why I'm holding it down in this one corner with a Post-it. Nice and bright and happy, but look at what happens when you remove that card front. Just close up my inks. Look how pretty that is. Now you could cut this down, Or you can just make this is the front of a card and you can embellish it. So I have an example of that. It's done in a little bit of a different color palette. So Kind People Are My Kind of People is a sentiment that is in that stamp set of the Simply Succulents. But I just used Rococo Rose and probably Pear Pizzazz and Pretty Peacock. So it's a much softer, maybe a springier palette. The brighter colors gave me this, and I would do the same kind of treatment on this one. But what's also fun is, and I'm just going to pretend that this is a blank card right now. Look at what happens when you take the mask and you set it over. So then you've got something pretty again. So there's two cards in one. Or you can cut some of these pieces out, and that's how you get this card. I had just run my blender brushes over this die and then cut some out. So you've got lots of different options. You could create a black frame using either a die, or you could use your paper cutter and just cut a black frame that sits over this so you don't see any of these edges. I kind of like the edges. But there's this one, right? And here's what the other one looked like. So again, I just have that little strip over here. I stamped and embossed this You Make the Ordinary Extraordinary, which is another greeting from this set. Added a little ribbon. It's popped up on dimensionals. Quick and elegant card. Not a lot of cardstock, not a lot of work, because the die is so intricate and just your multiple colors just made it look great.